Welcome to another episode of Run That Back, the fifth of the series. And up to this point, we've talked mostly positive things on this series, and I don't know if that's going to be the case today. We got to talk about the Vikings quarterback. We're going to call him JJ McCarthy because 9 was nowhere to be found this past Sunday. So without spoiling too much more of the video, let's hop right into the film. All right, tough day at the office for JJ McCarthy. 16 of 32 for 150 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And it started early. A lot of sprays here in this first quarter. This first play, the Vikings have Justin Jefferson coming on this big over route off of play action. And then they have Jordan Addison. I'll use a different color for contrast. Jordan Addison running this kind of like angled corner route here, deep down the field. And then they'll have Adam Thielen sitting over the ball. And off of play action, Aaron Jones will come out into the flat here. This actually ends up playing out like flood, where you have, your high, your mid, and your low routes, the three routes on the outside. And so theoretically, he'd be reading this, let me get a different color here. Reading this 1, 2 to 3. But the Bears are in man coverage here. So you're going to have Nahshon Wright one-on-one here. You're going to have Tyreek Stevenson one-on-one here. And then you'll have Byard and Edmonds passing off this sit route here. Over the ball route from Thielen. And what that creates is it creates an opportunity for Jordan Addison down the field. Jordan Addison here is at the bottom of the screen. He gets into Nahshon Wright's blind spot, gets him turned to the inside, and then cuts back behind him, and he ends up getting a lot of separation here. And that's what JJ McCarthy is looking at, and to his credit, I think that's the right place to go with the ball in this play because, like I said, Jordan Addison gets a lot of separation. The only problem is that he just lets go of this ball, and it's way too short. Just skipped it to him like a shortstop skipping a ball to first base. And I'm going to flip to the other angle here real quick to talk about his footwork. So, mechanically speaking, JJ McCarthy is a flawed quarterback, and you could probably see that with your own eyes, but I want to go a little bit deeper to show you exactly what his flaws are. And it stems from this right here. JJ McCarthy is an overstrider, and that is exactly what it sounds like. He strides out way too far from his body going forward. You want your quarterback to have a nice narrow base when he's throwing the football, because that's going to help him be more rotational. It's going to help him keep his power in his midsection and transfer that into his arm when he turns. And JJ McCarthy is not doing that. If you want another example of an overstrider, his teammate Carson Wentz is a huge overstrider. Kenny Pickett is a huge overstrider. Early career Josh Allen was really bad with this stuff. And here is JJ McCarthy demonstrating the flaws with striding out too far. And what this causes is, and I'll go another frame forward, is it causes his front leg, to go into full extension mode rather than having a nice slight bend in it the way that you want it to. And what you can also see is that JJ McCarthy is really tilted to his left. And what this does is, because he overstrided and because his front leg went to full extension mode, he had to lean his body to the left in order to generate power on the football. And this is just not an efficient way of driving the ball downfield. If he was a little bit more, I'll use a different color. If he was a little bit more flat and his front leg had a little bit more bend in it because he, didn't stride out so far, things would be a lot more rotational from the hips and from the legs. And that would allow his arm to kind of whip behind him. And that makes throwing the football downfield and driving downfield much more effortless. Another thing that you can see is this back leg here swinging around. And that's another symptom of a guy who's a little bit out of control, because the back leg is going to swing when you're a rotational passer, but you want it to be controlled and within the frame of your body. That's not the case with JJ McCarthy. It's arms and limbs and everything flying all over the place because he started out at a bad place. He started out with too wide of a base to throw from. And so he's compensating by leaning his body and swinging his leg just to try and generate power, because his mechanics are not efficient enough to generate power from within. And as you can see, something that overstriding leads to are balls being short, balls being too high, and just overall an inability to drive the ball downfield on a line. And that's what happens here as the ball ends up about 5 yards short of Jordan Addison. And this is something that you will see over and over again as this game goes on. Next one here. The reason I show you this one is because a big talking point with JJ McCarthy is that all he had to do this year was maybe make 4 to 5 throws a game, and everything else will be protected by the infrastructure of this offense. Everything else will be nice and easy, and Kevin O'Connell will design things up for him. The thing that not enough people considered was that JJ McCarthy still has to execute those quote unquote easy plays. And up to this point, he's struggling to do that. This is a play action fake to the left with CJ Ham releasing to the right to, mimic being a front side or backside blocker on this play. And then Josh Oliver is going to, pass protect and then release out into the flat, basically doing the same thing that a sifting tight end would do on a play action slide play, right? And then Jordan Addison's going to run the flat controller, Tyreek Stevenson, off the ball. And this flat route should be wide open. JJ McCarthy just has to do his play action fake to the left, boot back to the right, and then dump this ball off to the flat. And Josh Oliver should have tons of room to run. Or at the bare minimum, at 2nd and 5, he should get the first down and move the chains and keep this offense rolling, right? And I'll take this a step further. Once we get into the play, here we are. CJ Ham has released out to the right here, and he has held up Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in between the hashes, and Tyreek Stevenson is running with Jordan Addison. So this flat is wide open, and Josh Oliver is about to release from Montez Sweat, and he should have a ton of room here to operate, right? All right, he's released, and now JJ McCarthy, all he has to do is take one more step, stop right here, and float this ball out to the 40-yard line, right to where Josh Oliver is going to run under it, and then he can turn up the field, and he can, at bare minimum, move the sticks, if not get a bunch more yards here, because Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is still stuck between the hashes because of the CJ Ham element of this play, right? So he throws the ball, right? Well, doesn't throw it here. Another step, doesn't throw it here. Another step, doesn't throw the ball here. Finally throws the ball at this point in the play when he is outside of the right hash mark. And CJ Gardner-Johnson has completely erased the step that Josh Oliver had on him. And so instead of Josh Oliver having all this room up the sideline to turn and run, he has to catch the ball, stop inside the numbers, and CJ Gardner-Johnson blows us up for a 3-yard loss. But this is because JJ McCarthy did not get rid of the ball in time. These are the easy designed plays that you need to be able to operate to, frankly, function as a quarterback in this league. And up to this point, JJ McCarthy hasn't shown an ability to consistently do that. Next one here, kind of a bittersweet one for JJ McCarthy for a variety of reasons. The Vikings have on just double moves here on the boundary side of this play. So now and up from Jefferson, a stick nod from Hockenson. And then on the field side, they have a stick nod from Jordan Addison and a double move comeback thing here from Naylor. I don't know if that's what he was supposed to do, but it's what he did. And the Bears are in a quarter half coverage. So if you look up here at the line of scrimmage, a lot of these guys are going to drop off. So you'll have a flat defender, you'll have your hook to curl defenders, and then you'll have your seam defender, right? And then I said it's quarter half. So you'll have a quarters safety and a quarters corner over here. Notably, Kevin Byard is going to turn to the boundary side of this play, and CJ Gardner-Johnson is going to drop off into the flat, and then Nahshon Wright is going to be a half field defender on this play, which means that the field side of this quarter half coverage is inverted. And that means that the outside corner is the one that's sprinting back to his half field responsibility. And that's important because, one, JJ McCarthy looks to the top of the screen first, or he looks to the boundary side of this play, and he sees Kevin Byard booking it over here, and he immediately turns to the field side of this play, where Nahshon Wright, like I mentioned right here, is technically responsible for, this whole half of the field deep, but the Vikings have what appear to be two outbreaking routes, which forced him to get width to the sideline. Now, Jordan Addison is immediately going to break this one up the field because, as I said, he is running a stick nod route. And as he does that, JJ McCarthy is progressing to the backside at the perfect time to let this thing rip right up the seam to a wide open receiver, which, just looking at this play at this point, this should be a touchdown, right? JJ McCarthy should let the ball go right now. The issue is that instead of planting his back heel and throwing this right now, he sees a lot of space in the pocket. And for whatever reason, he just starts running north in the pocket, just starts running forward into open grass. And then he decides to let this ball rip down the seam to Jordan Addison. And to his credit, it's a good throw that should be caught by Jordan Addison, but this ball needs to come out right now. Jordan Addison is breaking into an open part of the field. He is progressing to the backside on time, but everything feels kind of frantic with JJ McCarthy. He feels the pressure coming off the right side, and even though he has the time to let this ball go on time down the middle of the field, he just feels the need to run forward, reset, and then throw the ball. And by the time he's done that, Nahshon Wright has come over enough to at least have a chance on this ball. And even though it hits Jordan Addison in the hands, this play didn't have to be this difficult. That ball needs to come out a full second sooner, and they would have a chance at a long touchdown to Jordan Addison. But instead, it's a drop down the middle of the field, and they punt on the next play. Next one here from JJ McCarthy is a positive one. This is a staple in Kevin O'Connell's offense and really anybody that he's ever worked for. This is drift. Justin Jefferson is running the drift route here. He's going to run it at about 10, 12 yards. And with drift, you can kind of sit wherever you need to, or you can, break this harder down the line. It's a flexible route. It just depends on the coverage of the defense. And it's paired with a play action fake here to the left. And it's also going to have Josh Oliver down blocking and then releasing out to the right here. And this is a very simple and easy completion for JJ McCarthy, but I'll show you in a second here. Play action fake, puts his back heel on the ground. And yes, he could get rid of this ball now and kind of layer it over Chauncey Gardner-Johnson here, but he is following Josh Oliver out into the flat. So JJ McCarthy actually gives him a little shoulder fake to pull him this way, as you can see, which, again, I don't know if this was necessary, but he gives him that little shoulder fake and then whips the ball by his ear hole here. And I'll give you a better angle on that play here. This is a throw that JJ McCarthy does have in his bag. This is a throw that he can make. His top is drop. And right there's that little shoulder fake to Josh Oliver because he knows that his main intention here is to hit Justin Jefferson coming across the middle of the field. And, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is reading his eyes, but, with that little shoulder fake, of course, he follows him out into the flat. And then, like I said, he just whips that ball right behind him. And JJ McCarthy has his struggles when it comes to layering the ball over defenders, but that right there is a throw that he can make. One where, the window is vacated and all he has to do is just, rip the football on a line to the middle of the field. He can do that. It's kind of similar to Baker Mayfield in a way. Baker Mayfield is obviously a much better quarterback, but he's never really been one to layer the ball over defenders or throw with a lot of touch to the intermediate areas of the field. He likes to have windows open up for him to where he can just drive the ball straight because he can throw the piss out of the football. And to his credit, JJ McCarthy can too. And that's why I think these are the areas, if you're searching for where he can be successful for the rest of the season, these are the areas where he can be successful when you kind of clear things out for him and he doesn't have to worry about defenders dropping on passes or defenders picking things off or undercutting routes or anything like that, where he can just throw the ball flat and straight and lead his guys down the field. And speaking of those defenders sinking on intermediate throws, this is a rough one for JJ McCarthy for a couple of reasons. So this is Burner, which is a two-man route concept off of play action where you have a clear out route on the one side, and then the money route here is a big over, and this is Justin Jefferson here. If you get man coverage, this should be an automatic completion 9 times out of 10, right? They also have a flat controller here. CJ Ham's going to motion across. He's going to, block and then release into the flat, and that theoretically should open up a huge window to throw the ball here to Justin Jefferson coming on that over route. And they get the perfect look for this. They get man coverage, which is exactly what you want. And pausing it right here, Justin Jefferson has a step. He's run a great route. He's got a step coming across the middle of the field in man coverage. And Jordan Addison is successfully running his man off the ball. And CJ Ham is theoretically taking care of the flat defender here. But the flat defender is Kevin Byard, who is a veteran. And Kevin Byard is reading JJ McCarthy's eyes, and he knows what route he is throwing on this play. He knows he wants this over route to Justin Jefferson. McCarthy knows it's open. And he is in a perfectly clean pocket. Yes, CJ Gardner-Johnson is coming off the edge here, but he is taken care of by this running back. There's nothing to worry about here, and then everything else is clean all across the board. He is in a perfectly clean pocket and is just now hitting the top of his drop. All he has to do is hitch up maybe one time, put his back heel on the ground, and let this ball rip over the middle of the field. He can put it in between Byard and the linebacker on a line, or he can float this thing out to the sideline. It doesn't really matter. There's nobody over here. Stevenson's getting run off the ball, and Justin Jefferson has won on his route. But like I mentioned earlier, J.J. McCarthy's pocket movement is a little bit erratic, and he's a little bit easily spooked, and he steps up into a completely clean pocket, which he does not need to step up into. And because this is the NFL, and because J.J. McCarthy is now late, Kevin Byard, a veteran safety, sees this and is just sinking on this ball and waiting for him to throw it. And McCarthy does, and it gets picked off. He also gets hit as he throws, which, again, did not need to happen because he was at the top of a perfectly clean pocket and stepped up into it for some reason. It's just, this ball needs to come out now. But again, J.J. McCarthy is just not playing with the poise and the calmness of an NFL quarterback, frankly. And that makes plays like this, which should be, huge completions, interceptions, because he is both late and panicked. And then not too long after that, you're going to get this play. This is going to be a little kind of a post wheel combination. You're going to get an out and up from Jordan Addison, and then a post or a divide from Jalen Nailor on this play. The Bears are in quarter half here, which is something I explained a little bit earlier, but I'll explain again. At least this time to the field side, you're going to get 2 quarters defenders, and then you're going to have a flat defender here out of the slot. And then to the boundary side of this play, you have Kevin Byard as the half-field safety. And then, you have your cloud corner. And then you have a hooked curl defender and a middle of the field linebacker as well. Now, this plays out pretty well for the Vikings, all things considered. This looks like a man coverage look pre-snap, and so J.J. McCarthy is going to look Justin Jefferson's way when he takes a snap, which it's Justin Jefferson. If you think you're getting man coverage on Justin Jefferson 101, I don't blame you for looking that way first, but he's then quickly going to progress to the backside when he sees Kevin Byard pretty much bracketing this route. And when he looks to the backside, these routes are coming free. You have Jalen Nailor running, the divide post, and then you have Jordan Addison running the out and up or the wheel route here. This poster divide kind of looks open, but in reality, by the time he hitches and throws the ball over the middle of the field, Jaquan Brisker could very easily jump in front of this and pick this ball off. And again, I don't know what his progression is when they're installing this play. All I know is that Jordan Addison ends up getting a step on Nahshon Wright down the sideline. And right here, he's even when J.J. McCarthy separates through the ball. And there's a saying called, if he's even, he's leaving, because most of the time, if the receiver is even with a corner, he's going to have the step on him. And that is true on this play. Now, when McCarthy separates through this ball, again, Jordan Addison is beating him down the sideline. This ball needs to be in the back of the end zone to let him run under. The problem is, and as you can see, Jordan Addison ends up smoking him out of that break, and he's got a full step. If this ball is anywhere in this back corner of the end zone, this is a touchdown. However, J.J. McCarthy leaves this ball a little short, and it gets picked off. Why does this ball end up a little short? Well, once again, it is his mechanics. This is an example of J.J. McCarthy overstriding, and as you can guess, because I showed you earlier, when he lets go of this ball, that front leg goes into full extension, and he's leaning to his left, and that causes him to lose a lot of power that way, whereas if he was a little bit more narrow, a little bit more stable, and a little bit more rotational, that would let him drive the ball into the back of the end zone. These are the mechanical flaws of J.J. McCarthy. I've showed you mechanical flaws, I've showed you decision-making flaws, and I've showed you pocket movement flaws. This was a fine decision. It's just an inaccurate ball because of poor mechanics. Now, when you have mechanical issues, processing issues, and pocket movement issues, that's a pretty bad recipe for a quarterback in the NFL. And that's the reality of what we're dealing with J.J. McCarthy right now. Next one here. This just kind of sums up everything that I've been talking about today, and not necessarily in a good way. I'll start with a positive. He changes the protection here because the Bears are showing a man coverage blitz, and they end up sending 6. So Sewell and CJ Gardner-Johnson are going to drop off, but the Vikings have 7 in to protect with the tight end and running back, and so they have 7 blocking 6. So they're good there. They have enough to protect him and not have any free runners. And they're in man coverage here. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's going to drop out, and they are essentially going to double Jordan Addison. You'll have a single high safety. Jalen Nailor is going to run like a little wheel route, and he is going to be manned up with Tyreek Stevenson over here. And Justin Jefferson is going to run a deep out route, or like a 10-yard out route. And the man that is in charge of Justin Jefferson on this play is Noah Sewell here, dropping out of the A gap to try and go track down Justin Jefferson running this out route. That's a pretty ideal setup for the Vikings, if you ask me. And it works perfectly. You know, they have 7 in to protect. McCarthy is ready to throw this football on time because Noah Sewell had just no chance of beating Justin Jefferson in the sideline. This is a perfect setup. It's a first down. McCarthy is separating to throw it. He's on time, and air ball just completely sails it over his head. Like I don't really know what else there is to say about this. He does a good job setting the protection. He keeps himself clean. He knows where he needs to go with the football, and he just sails it over his head. And of course, I'm going to come back to the fact that this is a mechanical issue because he overstrided, and then when he let go of this football, he's actually pretty even, with his shoulders, but the front leg is once again straight. And when you overstride and you have your front leg straightened out, it can leave you susceptible to throwing the ball too high, and it can leave you susceptible to throwing the ball too low. And on this play, he just throws the ball way too high, and yeah. I had the same reaction that Justin Jefferson did. But if I can give JJ McCarthy one thing, the guy never stops playing and he never mails it in. They put together a really nice final drive here, and this play here was probably my favorite of his from the game. Not because it was the most physically impressive throw that he's ever made, but just because this is good quarterbacking at the NFL level. So the Bears are showing 6 potential blitzers, or 6 potential pass rushers, I should say. The Vikings could have 7 in to protect, but TJ Hawkinson is going to release into the route. So that takes him out of the equation. You're down to 6 protecting potential 7 rushers. And the Vikings are going to have these 3 fan out to 3. These 2 over to 2. And then on the right side of the line, they'll have 3 fan out to 3. And that's going to make the running back responsible for 44 here. And Tremaine Edmonds is going to be unblocked because he is the last man on the line of scrimmage. And that makes JJ McCarthy responsible for him. That makes him hot. And the Vikings here have on a little bow concept. So they'll have Jordan Addison just running the little bow at the sticks. Keep in mind, this is 4th and 4, by the way. And Justin Jefferson running a dig right behind him. Now, the way the Bears end up matching this up is this outside corner is going to stay manned up with Jordan Addison, and number 38, I think this is back here, is going to take away this dig from Justin Jefferson. So, JJ McCarthy has set the protection. He's processed all this pre-snap. He knows that he is hot. And again, earlier on in the game, JJ McCarthy on multiple occasions panicked under the guise of pressure. He panicked on phantom pressure that wasn't really there. But this play, he knows that there is a guy coming off the edge, and he knows that he's going to get hit, and he stands in there, and he takes the hit, and he delivers this ball to Jordan Addison down and inside right at the sticks. The ball placement on this is fantastic. He knows that number 24, this corner over here, is on the outside shoulder of Jordan Addison. And if he comes down, he's going to be on the outside shoulder of Jordan Addison. And so if McCarthy, I'll get a different color here, if McCarthy leaves this ball on the outside, that leaves him susceptible to get hit or for the ball to get jarred loose, or, worst case scenario, the ball gets picked off. But he puts that ball down and inside right where he needs to put it while he's about to get hit because he knew he was hot, and he gets Jordan Addison for the first down. This is good quarterbacking. That is a phenomenal play from JJ McCarthy in a huge moment in the final drive of the 4th quarter, and that was my favorite play of his from the game, and I have to give him a lot of credit for that. Last play here, and this is the touchdown that actually put the Vikings in the lead here late in the fourth quarter. I have some questions about this play, but let's just dive into what's going on here. The Bears are in quarter, half, so you have quarter, half, which we've covered multiple times throughout this video. And the Vikings are running a little peel concept. So we have a post or a dig kind of from Justin Jefferson, and then a wheel route from Jordan Addison, and then underneath you have TJ Hockenson trying to hold this hooked curl defender. I'm fairly confident that JJ McCarthy's first read here is Justin Jefferson running this inbreaker over the middle of the field, and TJ Hockenson is supposed to hold this hook to curl defender. It doesn't really work. The hook to curl defender just kind of sinks, and then you have Noah Sewell in the middle of the field who's also, running the seam. And then not to mention you also have a quarter safety ready to break on this inbreaker. This is covered from all four angles. But also, you have this quarters corner with his eyes all over Justin Jefferson, completely vacating this wheel route from Jordan Addison. And look, man, I don't know how he's reading this out, but if he's recognizing right now that this defender is way over pursuing this inbreaker from Justin Jefferson, this ball should come out into this open space, just float it out into the end zone, and Jordan Addison will run right under it for a touchdown. But for whatever reason, and I don't know what the reason is, I don't know what his progression looks like, he hitches and then throws this ball. And it feels like it's late. That's all I'm saying. It's a touchdown. He does his job. He does punish the mistake that Nahshon Wright makes, but it feels a little bit late. And to his credit, right now JJ McCarthy realizes that there's no way he's going to float this ball into the end zone now that Nahshon Wright has finally cut bait and is retracing to this wheel route. And so he gets his 4-iron out and just rips this thing on a line to the outside shoulder of Jordan Addison for the touchdown. But I just want to know how he's reading that out, because to me, just based on how the play flowed when I watched it on film, it felt like that ball could have come out a lot sooner. But then again, Jordan Addison wasn't exactly sprinting on that route, so maybe he wasn't even a part of the concept at all, and this was just an out-of-structure play by JJ McCarthy. Last thing I will mention is the mechanics. I'm not going to rehash everything I've said, but once again, just the mechanics aren't really for me. I think they could use a lot of cleaning up, and I think JJ McCarthy would be a much more accurate and much more consistent quarterback if he was able to kind of calm things down, both in the pocket and with his throwing motion. But I'll leave it at that. So, just like last time, I have a couple errors to read you, 2 in specific. On the first play I showed you, if that was actually a flood concept, which I'm not entirely sure, but if that was actually a flood concept, that deep route from Addison would not have been the second read in the progression. That would have been an alert. And on the second play I showed you, I called Tyrique Stevenson a flat controller. Flat controller is actually an offensive term to describe a route that's holding the flat defender down, not a defensive term. What I meant to say was that Jordan Addison was running the potential flat defender off the ball, and that potential flat defender was Tyrique Stevenson. Now, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's film session. And if you're a Vikings fan, it's only been 5 games. You don't want to bury JJ McCarthy yet. I'm just looking at what he's put on film so far and telling you what I see. I'm not trying to make any judgments about his future as an NFL quarterback. Got it? Great. Until next time.